Let God cover your life and guide every step you take today. Before your feet touch the ground today, God has already surrounded your life with a covering you have not yet recognized. This covering is not fragile, symbolic, or distant. It is active. It is present. It is already positioned around the day you have not yet lived. You may believe you are stepping into uncertainty, but God has been shaping your path since long before this morning arrived. He has examined every moment you will encounter. He has anticipated every pressure that could rise. He has prepared strength for every demand and peace for every moment that tries to steal clarity. You are entering a day that has been touched by His foresight. Think for a moment about what this truly means. If God has already surrounded your life, then nothing you face today begins without His presence. You are not waking up exposed to randomness or vulnerability. You are stepping into an environment guarded by divine intelligence. The pressures you fear have already been measured. The decisions you will make have already been considered. The situations waiting for you have already been filtered through His protection. Your day does not start with you preparing to defend yourself. It starts with God having already defended what concerns you. Reason through this carefully. The way a philosopher examines a truth until its reality becomes undeniable. If God surrounds you before the day begins, then His covering is not a reaction to danger. It is a preemptive shield. It moves before you, not after you. It does not wait for threats to reveal themselves. It intercepts what you cannot see. It stands between you and everything that does not belong to your purpose. You are not stepping into the world unguarded. You are stepping into a day where God has already taken the first step. There is something liberating in this realization. It removes the internal pressure that convinces you that you must be your own protector. It dismantles the belief that constant vigilance is necessary for survival. It silences the voice that tells you to brace yourself before the world demands something from you. God's covering did not appear because you prayed at the right moment. It appeared because He is committed to your life in ways your mind has not fully comprehended. His covering operates whether you feel strong or weak, confident or uncertain, prepared or overwhelmed. If God has already covered your life, then today is not something you must conquer. It is something you must walk through with awareness. His covering invites you to move with confidence instead of caution, with clarity instead of hesitation, with trust instead of anxiety. Fear loses its authority when you realize God has already occupied the spaces where fear tries to rise. Worry loses its influence when you understand that God has already established boundaries around your steps. Panic loses its power when you see that God has already processed what you have not yet reached. This is the shock of awareness that prepares you for everything that follows. You are not beginning your day from vulnerability. You are beginning from covering. You are not beginning from uncertainty. You are beginning from protection. You are not beginning from confusion. You are beginning from divine intention. The atmosphere around your steps is not empty. It is guarded, shaped, and supervised by the One who leads you. Now that your awareness has been awakened, it is time to understand the hidden realm where God's covering operates long before your eyes ever see it. The hidden realm of protection. God's covering does not begin in the places you can see. It begins in the hidden realm where your thoughts are shaped, your timing is arranged, and your steps are influenced long before your body moves. Most people imagine divine protection as something that surrounds them externally, guarding their path against visible circumstances. But the deepest form of God's covering operates in dimensions the human mind rarely notices. It moves within your reasoning, shields you from internal collapse, filters what reaches your heart, and redirects what would have weakened your purpose. You are protected long before you are aware of being protected. Reflect on how much of your day is influenced by what you do not see. A thought that appears suddenly may be the very thought that keeps you from entering a space that was never meant for you. A delay you did not expect may be preventing you from encountering a moment that would have drained your strength. A shift in instinct may be guiding you away from a conversation that would have discouraged your spirit. God's covering does not only intervene in dramatic events. It works quietly in the unseen flow of your day, shaping outcomes before they form and dismantling threats before they reach you. Consider the architecture behind this protection. God sees what you cannot. He has access to layers of reality that remain hidden from human senses. He understands the intentions behind words you have not yet heard. He sees the consequences behind decisions you have not yet made. He knows the emotional weight behind choices that appear simple on the surface. This awareness allows him to construct a protective boundary that operates in silence while you move through your day, unaware of the dangers that never reached you. His covering intercepts what would have harmed you emotionally, spiritually, or mentally before it ever enters your environment. Think about how protection unfolds in your thoughts. There are moments when a sudden discomfort rises within you, not because something is wrong inside you, but because something around you is not aligned with God's will. That discomfort is not weakness, it is a shield. There are moments when peace leaves you the moment you consider a certain path. That loss of peace is guidance. There are moments when clarity appears after confusion held you still. That clarity is direction. God's covering influences your thoughts to prevent you from stepping into places where your purpose would suffer. Now reflect on the realm of timing. God adjusts the pace of your steps to protect you from what your timing would have exposed you to. A delay may feel frustrating, yet it may be the exact delay necessary to keep you aligned with safety. A sudden acceleration may feel surprising, yet it may be God positioning you ahead of a difficulty you never saw coming. Timing is a spiritual shield, not an accidental rhythm. When God alters the pace of your day, He is not interrupting you, He is protecting you. Protection also moves through relationships and encounters. Some people enter your life to strengthen you. Others are quietly redirected away from you to guard your peace. Conversations you never had may have saved you from discouragement. Invitations you never received may have protected you from environments that would have clouded your clarity. People who distance themselves from you may not be rejecting you. They may be part of God's protective redirection. His covering is active in the unseen corridors of human connection. Consider the emotional realm. God protects your inner world not only by shielding you from harm, but by strengthening you from within. He gives you resilience in moments that could have overwhelmed you. He gives you calm in moments that should have shaken you. He gives you awareness in moments that required caution. These internal movements are not accidental feelings. They are carefully placed layers of protection that regulate your responses and shield your spirit. Descartes taught that truth becomes clearer when the unseen influences behind human thought are examined. The same principle applies here. When you examine your life honestly, you begin to notice how many times you were protected without realizing it. How many wrong turns you avoided without knowing why. How many harmful connections dissolved before they reached your trust. How many moments shifted subtly, saving your heart from burdens you were not meant to carry. God's covering was active in the hidden realm long before you recognized its presence. This hidden covering is the foundation of today's journey. You cannot understand the path ahead unless you understand the protection already surrounding you. God does not wait for threats to appear before He intervenes. He builds a shield around your life that moves before you, thinks before you, and prepares before you. This covering is alive, intelligent, and deeply intentional. Now that you understand the hidden realm of protection, it is time to step into the next revelation. The covering that moves with you, adapting to your pace and surrounding every step you take. The covering that moves with you. God's covering is not a static shield you step into. It is a living presence that travels with you, adapts to your pace, and surrounds every moment you enter. Many imagine divine protection as something that stays in one place, waiting for them to reach it. But God's covering is mobile. It moves as you move. It shifts as you shift. It responds to the environments you step into, to the people you encounter, and to the decisions you make. You are never outside of it unless you choose to ignore its presence. This covering is dynamic, not stationary, and its movements are tailored to the direction of your life. Think about how you navigate your day. You walk through different moods, different responsibilities, different environments, and different pressures. You carry thoughts that change, emotions that fluctuate, and expectations that rise and fall. If God's covering were stationary, you would be unprotected the moment you stepped outside its boundaries. Instead, His covering adjusts to every dimension of your day. It remains close when your thoughts are scattered, closer when your emotions feel heavy, and strongest when your steps lead you into unknown territory. The covering responds to your need long before you recognize the need yourself. Consider the philosophical depth of this truth. A shield that moves with you is not simply protection, it is companionship. It means God does not guard you from a distance. He guards you from proximity. He walks with you through each transition. He stands at your side when your reasoning becomes clouded. He steps ahead of you when your path becomes uncertain. He moves behind you when you need strength from your past. He surrounds you on every side, creating an atmosphere where danger loses access and fear loses influence. This dynamic covering adjusts not only to your physical steps, but to your internal world. When your mind moves too quickly, God's covering slows you down with a gentle sense of restraint. When your heart begins to fear, His covering surrounds you with a quiet assurance that settles your breathing. When your emotions begin to spiral, His covering steadies your thoughts with clarity. When your intentions drift off course, His covering redirects your motives with conviction. The covering is not passive. It actively aligns your internal world with the direction God has prepared. Reflect on how this covering interacts with environments. There are places where your spirit feels drained immediately. That is not random discomfort. It is your covering tightening around you, signaling that something in that environment is not aligned with your purpose. There are people who make you feel uneasy despite their pleasant words. That uneasiness is your covering warning you of intentions hidden from your eyes. There are moments when a room feels heavy without explanation. Your covering is responding before you understand why. God protects you by influencing your perception. This covering also moves in moments of decision. When you are about to choose something that does not belong to your path, peace withdraws. The clarity you once felt becomes clouded. Your confidence becomes unsettled. This is not confusion. It is your covering attempting to guide you away from a misstep. When you are aligned with the right decision, the opposite happens. Peace settles. Clarity rises. Assurance grows. This is your covering moving with your spirit, confirming your direction. Descartes taught that understanding increases when internal and external realities are examined together. Apply this to God's covering. Externally, it guards your steps. Internally, it shapes your awareness. These movements create a harmonious protection that follows you through every part of your day. You are not guarded by a barrier you must locate. You are guarded by a presence that locates you. Think of the moments when you felt safe without knowing why. Moments when danger passed by you unnoticed. Moments when you avoided a situation by instinct alone. Moments when a sudden shift in plans protected you from what you did not see. These were not coincidences. They were the movements of God's covering adjusting itself around you. A dynamic covering protects by anticipation, not by reaction. This covering also adapts to your pace. When you rush ahead of God's timing, His covering does not abandon you. It pulls you back through discomfort, slowing your internal rhythm. When you lag behind in fear, His covering does not push you harshly. It gently nudges you forward through conviction and peace. When you walk in alignment, His covering flows effortlessly with you. It surrounds your steps with a steady assurance that becomes unmistakable. You are walking today with a covering that never stops moving. It travels with you through every conversation, every decision, every environment, and every internal shift. You do not need to search for God's protection. It is already wrapped around you, adjusting itself to every moment you will face. Now that you understand the covering that moves with you, it is time to explore the inner guidance system God placed within you. The silent compass that reveals His direction long before you consciously recognize it. The inner guidance system. God built in you. Inside you, God designed a guidance system that operates long before your conscious mind begins to analyze the day. It does not function through dramatic signs or loud commands. It works through microsignals that rise quietly within your inner world. These movements are subtle, but they carry undeniable authority when you learn to recognize them. This guidance system is intentional. It was built to keep you aligned with the path God prepared and protected by the covering He placed around your steps. You are never without direction because God placed direction within you. Consider the tightening you feel when something is wrong. This sensation is not anxiety. It is discernment. It appears when an environment carries the potential to harm your peace, when a conversation holds a hidden weight, or when a decision would lead you away from what God intends for you. The tightening is a protective signal. It slows your pace, interrupts your impulse, and gives you a moment to reconsider. Your instincts are not random. They are spiritual sensors placed by God to alert you before danger reaches your outer world. When your inner world tightens, God is guiding you. Now think of the release you feel when something is right. This release is not excitement. It is alignment. It is the sensation that your inner world expands instead of contracts. You breathe differently. Your thoughts settle. Your emotions stabilize. You feel safe without needing explanations. This release is a sign that the step before you belongs to your path. It is God confirming that the direction matches His intention. The right decisions do not fight your spirit. They bring order to it. This internal release is divine affirmation. Reflect on the quiet pull you experience toward certain people or moments. This pull does not pressure you. It draws you gently. It may come as a thought you cannot shake, a name that keeps returning to your mind, or a sense that you are meant to engage in a specific direction. God uses subtle attraction to lead you toward relationships, opportunities, and insights that are part of your preparation. The pull is not emotional craving. It is divine positioning. Your spirit recognizes what your mind has not yet understood. Another signal of guidance is sudden stillness. This stillness can interrupt your pace without warning. You may be ready to act, speak, or move, yet something inside you tells you to stop. Not from fear, not from uncertainty, from wisdom. Stillness is not hesitation. Stillness is revelation. It protects you from entering a moment prematurely or stepping into something God has not yet approved. Stillness is a shield disguised as silence. When God needs you to wait, He quiets your spirit before He explains His reasons. Descartes taught that truth becomes clear when you separate instinct from illusion. God's guidance system works through instinct, but it is not instinct alone. It is instinct filtered through divine wisdom. It is not impulsive. It is intentional. It is not irrational. It is precise. These inner signals carry logic that your spirit understands even when your mind has not yet caught up. Your task is to observe these signals without dismissing them. Your emotions alone cannot guide you. They are influenced by memory, fear, and expectation, but the signals from God carry a different quality. They do not spike suddenly. They do not create chaos. They do not produce panic. They remain steady, consistent, and clear. When God guides, the signal persists. When He warns, the discomfort lingers. When He affirms, the peace remains. When He redirects, the pull weakens. These patterns are not accidental. They are structured indicators placed within you. Think of the times when you ignored these signals. You felt the tightening, but you walked forward anyway. You felt the release, but you hesitated out of fear. You felt the pull, but you dismissed it as imagination. You felt the stillness, but you rushed to act. The moments that followed often revealed why the signal was given. You discovered conversations that were unsafe, situations that drained your strength, opportunities that were not truly aligned with your purpose. God was guiding you, but your attention was elsewhere. Now think of the times when you followed the signal. You avoided situations that would have harmed you. You connected with people who strengthened you. You entered moments that shaped you. You made decisions that brought peace instead of chaos. You saw how clarity replaced confusion the moment you obeyed the guidance within. These experiences prove that God built a compass inside you to navigate the unseen. Your inner guidance system works continuously. It is present in your thoughts, choices, relationships, and steps. It is designed to cooperate with God's covering and reveal His intention through subtle movements. When you learn to recognize these signals, your life changes. You stop guessing. You start perceiving. You stop forcing outcomes. You start following direction. You stop walking blindly. You start moving with spiritual intelligence. Now that your awareness of this inner guidance has expanded, it is time to understand the next layer of divine strategy, the law of God's strategic delays, a principle that protects you through timing rather than distance. The law of God's strategic delays. There are moments when God protects you not by removing you from danger, but by slowing you down long enough to keep you from stepping into it. These moments feel like delays, interruptions, or unexpected pauses, yet they are among the most sophisticated forms of divine covering. They frustrate your plans, rearrange your timing, and challenge your expectations, but beneath the surface they serve as strategic shields placed with perfect foresight. What seems like delay to you is often deliverance in disguise. What feels like stalled progress is often God adjusting your path to prevent what your eyes cannot perceive. Reflect carefully on the nature of a delay. Human perspective interprets it as loss of time, loss of control, or loss of momentum. But divine perspective sees what lies ahead and intervenes before you walk into something that would weaken you. God's delays are not punishments. They are protections. They keep you from being aligned with circumstances, people, or decisions that would have harmed your peace or disrupted your purpose. The delay that made you question God may be the reason you avoided a burden you were never meant to carry. Consider the logical structure behind this principle. If God sees every detail of your path beforehand, then He also sees the moments where your timing would collide with something unhealthy. A delay becomes His way of shifting your pace so that you arrive at the right moment instead of the wrong one. When God slows you, He is adjusting your alignment. When He redirects your steps, He is preventing an unseen impact. When He interrupts your plans, He is removing you from a moment that would have taken more from you than you realized. The delay is not a denial of your path. It is a refinement of your direction. Think about how many close calls never reached your awareness because God stepped into your timeline before you did. Conversations you never had, opportunities you never entered, environments you never reached. You might remember the frustration of the delay, but not the danger it prevented. You remember the inconvenience, but not the protection. God rearranged situations without explaining His reasons, yet the outcome revealed that His delay was an act of intentional care. If you had arrived earlier, you might have encountered a problem that would have slowed your spirit or damaged your peace. If you had arrived later, you might have missed the moment He prepared. His timing is not built around your urgency. It is built around your safety. Now examine the emotional impact of delays. When your heart desires movement, but God holds you still, tension begins to rise. You start questioning your direction, your decisions, and sometimes even yourself. Yet this discomfort is part of the protective design. The stillness forces introspection. The pause invites clarity. The lack of movement gives space for your spirit to realign with truth. When you cannot move forward, you are compelled to look inward. God uses delays to shape your character and sharpen your discernment. He prepares your inner world before He permits your outer steps to change. This principle also applies to relationships. Sometimes God delays the connection with someone because your heart is not ready, or their intentions are not aligned with what He is building in you. Sometimes He delays reconciliation because deeper healing must take place first. Sometimes He delays partnership because premature alignment would weaken both paths. God's delays in relationships are protective barriers disguised as slow timing. They preserve you from emotional attachments that would have cost you peace. Descartes taught that truth becomes clearer when assumptions are dismantled. Apply this reasoning here. The assumption that a delay means something is wrong collapses when you examine God's nature. The assumption that nothing is happening during waiting collapses when you consider how intricately God arranges circumstances behind the scenes. The assumption that you are losing time collapses when you realize God operates outside of your timeline and structures events for your benefit. When these assumptions fall, you begin to see delay not as stagnation, but as divine strategy. Another form of strategic delay is the internal resistance you sometimes feel. You want to move, but your spirit feels heavy. You try to force progress, but your heart does not cooperate. This heaviness is not a sign of laziness. It is a restraint placed by God. He is keeping you from stepping ahead of His timing because He knows what your emotions cannot predict. When your spirit does not permit movement, pay attention. Your guidance system and God's covering are working together to shield you. Delays also protect your mind. When you are emotionally tired or mentally unfocused, God may slow your pace to prevent you from making decisions that would bring unnecessary complications. He holds you still until your clarity returns, He prevents you from acting out of fear or frustration. He gives you space to breathe, reflect, and reset. What you call delay may simply be God preserving your wisdom. Every delay carries purpose. Every pause holds intention. Every interruption contains protection. God uses timing as a tool of covering, shaping your steps through rhythm and restraint. When you learn to trust His delays, you begin to walk through life with a peace that does not depend on speed or progress. You understand that every moment is guided with precision. Now that you see delay as protection rather than obstruction, you are ready to step into the next movement. Surrender, the posture that makes divine guidance unmistakably clear. Sacred descent into surrender. You cannot receive divine covering while defending yourself from imagined threats. This truth reveals the internal tension that often keeps people from fully experiencing God's guidance. Surrender is not the abandonment of responsibility. It is the release of illusions. It is the moment when you stop holding your life together through fear and begin allowing God to hold it through wisdom. Many cling to control because they believe that vigilance protects them, but vigilance born from fear distorts perception. It makes you expect danger even when none is present. It makes you doubt guidance even when it is clear. It makes you resist peace even when God is offering it freely. Surrender begins with awareness. You must first see how much of your inner world has been shaped by self-protection. Examine the thoughts that rise when uncertainty appears. Notice how quickly your reasoning shifts into defense. Observe how your emotions prepare for impact as if harm is inevitable. These reactions are not signs of strength. They are signs of overextension. Your mind has been acting as if it must guard what God has already covered. True surrender is recognizing that your internal defenses are not the source of your safety. God is. Descartes believed that clarity emerges when the mind questions its assumptions. Apply this philosophy to your own heart. Question the assumption that you must anticipate every problem. Question the assumption that you must understand everything before you move. Question the assumption that your strength alone protects you. These beliefs have been reinforced by past hurts, disappointments, and pressures, but they cannot coexist with divine guidance. Surrender dismantles them by replacing reactive thought with reflective truth. Surrender is also the moment when your internal pace begins to slow. Fear accelerates the mind. Anxiety speeds the heart. Pressure tightens your breathing. God's guidance requires a different rhythm, a steady one, a reflective one, a grounded one. You cannot perceive the subtle movements of God's direction when your inner world is racing. The descent into surrender is the process of lowering that internal speed until your spirit becomes receptive again. You become attentive to what God is saying, rather than consumed with what you fear could happen. This descent does not happen instantly. It begins with the decision to let go of the outcome you are trying to control. It continues with the willingness to trust timing rather than rush it. It deepens when you choose to listen instead of react. Each step brings you closer to a posture where God's covering becomes obvious instead of subtle. When your heart surrenders, guidance that once seemed hidden becomes clear. Signals that once felt faint become strong. Direction that once felt complicated becomes simple. Surrender also adjusts your emotional landscape. When you stop fighting imagined battles, your emotions stop preparing for war. Fear loses its environment. Doubt loses its foundation. Inner noise begins to dissolve. You become capable of hearing the quiet instructions God places within you. You notice the peace that rises without explanation. You sense the discomfort that signals a warning. You recognize the stillness that tells you to wait. These internal cues were always present, but surrender gives them volume. Many misunderstand surrender as passivity, but in reality, it is participation. It is the decision to cooperate with God's covering rather than compete with it. When you surrender, you no longer resist the guidance that comes through peace, instinct, or timing. You no longer argue with the redirections God places before you. You no longer cling to plans that no longer align with your spirit. Surrender makes you flexible. It makes you perceptive. It makes you capable of moving with God instead of ahead of Him. Reflect on the moments when you surrendered in the past. Times when you released control because you had no strength left. Times when you gave up your expectations because they were too heavy to carry. Times when you loosened your grip because your heart could not sustain the pressure. In those moments, clarity often came unexpectedly. Peace returned without effort. Direction appeared without striving. You experienced the truth that surrender is not loss. It is realignment. Surrender is also an act of humility. It acknowledges that God sees what you cannot, knows what you cannot predict, and understands what you have not yet reached. It acknowledges that your perspective is limited and His is limitless. Humility opens the door to guidance. A proud heart cannot hear God's direction because it believes it already knows the way. A surrendered heart listens because it recognizes its need. This sacred descent positions you for the next part of your journey. Prayer spoken from a surrendered heart carries more clarity, more depth, and more alignment. It is not a plea for rescue. It is a declaration of trust. It is not driven by fear. It is driven by connection. It is not rooted in confusion. It is rooted in dependence. Surrender prepares you to receive divine direction with full understanding and full sensitivity. Now that you have stepped into this posture of surrender, you are ready for the central moment of this journey. The prayer that invites God's covering over your life and His guidance over every step you take today. Main prayer of covering and guidance. God, we stand in this moment with a surrendered heart, aware that your presence surrounds us in ways far deeper than our understanding can reach. We recognize that your covering is already in place, moving before us, resting upon us, and standing behind us. We acknowledge that you lead with a wisdom that sees beyond our sight and prepares beyond our ability. Today we step under your covering with full intention, asking that you shape every moment, every decision, and every step. God, place your covering over our life. Let it rest upon our thoughts so that our reasoning remains clear, stable, and anchored in truth. Guard the places where fear once influenced us. Strengthen the areas where doubt once found space. Let your covering settle on our emotions so that stability overrides anxiety and peace becomes the atmosphere of our inner world. Cover our intentions so they align with your purpose rather than our pressure. Cover our desires so they rise from truth rather than impulse. Let this covering be a shield that protects, a presence that reassures, and a reminder that you are near. God, place your covering around our steps. Surround every direction we take with your protection. Stand before us in the spaces where we cannot see the full picture. Stand behind us in the places where our past tries to influence our confidence. Stand beside us in moments when our courage feels fragile. Surround us so thoroughly that danger cannot reach us and confusion cannot mislead us. Let your covering form a barrier that blocks deception, discouragement, and distraction. Let it filter the voices that attempt to sway us from your truth. Let it guard the path beneath our feet so that every step falls within the boundaries of your intention. God, guide our spirit from within. Speak into the quiet places where our thoughts are born. Whisper into the corners of our mind where decisions form. Let your voice rise above every emotional reaction and every internal storm. Guide us through clarity that appears when we need it most. Guide us through peace that remains even when circumstances shift. Guide us through conviction that reveals the difference between what is good and what is necessary. Let your spirit within us become the compass that directs our pace, our choices, and our perception. God, guide our timing. Keep us from moving ahead when the moment is not ready. Keep us from hesitating when the door is open. Keep us from rushing into decisions that require patience. Keep us from lingering in places where growth has already finished its work. Align our timing with your perfect rhythm so that we arrive at the right moments and avoid the wrong ones. Let this timing create opportunities that fit us, not opportunities that pressure us. God, protect our path today through the wisdom of your foresight. Remove the obstacles that would have drained our strength. Uncover the truth behind situations that appear harmless but carry hidden weight. Expose the intentions of those who approach us without honesty. Illuminate the steps that require caution. Strengthen the steps that require courage. Lead us away from environments that would disrupt our peace and toward environments that nourish our purpose. God, cover our relationships today. Bring us into contact with people who strengthen our walk. Remove us from the influence of those who weaken our clarity. Protect our heart from manipulation, from misalignment, and from emotional entanglements that do not belong to our journey. Surround our conversations with wisdom. Surround our interactions with discernment. Surround our connections with intention. God, cover our decisions. Let your wisdom override our impulse. Let your truth override our assumptions. Let your presence override our anxiety. When we stand at crossroads, let your guidance become undeniable. When we face uncertainty, let your peace point us toward the right path. When our mind tries to overthink, let your clarity settle everything with confidence. God, remind us throughout this day that we are covered and guided. Let our awareness remain sharp. Let our sensitivity remain active. Let our trust remain strong. Keep us aligned with the signals you place within our spirit. Keep us alert to the direction you place around our steps. Keep us anchored in the covering that rests upon our life. We step into this day not in our own strength, but in yours. We walk forward knowing that you guide every step, guard every moment, and surround every part of our life. Under your covering, we are safe. Under your guidance, we are steady. Under your presence, we are confident. Let every step we take today be shaped by your hand. Activation of spiritual alertness. Spiritual alertness is the ability to perceive God's movements before circumstances shift and before decisions confront you. It is the inner awareness that tells you when to advance, when to pause, when to let go, and when to hold on. Without spiritual alertness, you move through life reacting to whatever happens. With spiritual alertness, you move through life responding to signals God places within and around you. Alertness is not tension, it is perception. It is not fear, it is recognition. It is not suspicion, it is discernment awakened. You become spiritually alert the moment you begin to distinguish divine movement from emotional impulse. When God pulls you forward, He does not push you with urgency. He draws you with clarity. The thought feels organized. The decision feels natural. The direction feels grounded. Your inner world expands instead of tightens. You sense an alignment that makes movement feel like obedience rather than risk. This pull is God guiding you toward what He has prepared. It is subtle but unmistakable once alertness awakens. When God slows your steps, the signal appears differently. Your spirit becomes heavier, not with fear, but with caution. Your thoughts lose momentum. Your emotions settle into stillness. Your excitement becomes quieter. This is not resistance. This is protection. God slows your pace because moving quickly would place you ahead of His timing. It would expose you to situations you are not equipped to handle. It would lead you into moments where your strength would be drained. Alertness allows you to recognize slowing as guidance rather than frustration. There are times when God blocks a path entirely. You try to advance and nothing moves. Doors remain closed. Opportunities dissolve. Conversations shift unexpectedly. Plans that seemed certain fall apart. When this happens, alertness keeps you from assuming failure. Instead, you understand that God is redirecting you. He blocks paths not to limit you, but to protect you from consequences you cannot see. What feels like restriction is often preservation. Alertness transforms disappointment into understanding. Conversely, when God opens a moment, the atmosphere changes. You feel permission to move. Peace expands. The next step becomes clear. Opportunities align without force. Conversations flow with ease. Timing cooperates. Inner conflict dissolves. Alertness helps you recognize these openings without doubting them. It teaches you to step forward confidently when God has cleared the path. Many miss divine openings because they are too focused on their fears. Alertness lifts your eyes to see what God is making available. Spiritual alertness also affects your emotional responses. When something is wrong, even if it looks harmless externally, your spirit sends a signal. A discomfort rises. Something feels misaligned. You cannot explain it logically, but you sense it clearly. Alertness trains you to take this seriously. God often warns you before danger appears. The warning is not loud. It is subtle. It is the quiet sense that something within you is stepping back, even if nothing around you seems threatening. The opposite is also true. When something is right, even if your mind hesitates, your spirit steps forward. You feel drawn. You feel settled. You feel connected. You feel safe. Alertness teaches you to trust these moments. It teaches you to recognize that your spirit can sometimes see what your logic has not yet processed. God speaks in the language of peace, and alertness trains your heart to understand that language. Descartes taught that clarity emerges when the mind becomes attentive to its own movements. Spiritual alertness is the same principle applied to the inner life. You observe your thoughts. You evaluate your emotions. You question your instincts. You listen to the internal rhythm that rises without force. You begin to distinguish between the noise of fear and the direction of God. You learn to trust the signals that carry peace, clarity, and consistency. Alertness also heightens your awareness of divine timing. You begin to feel when a moment is too early, when a moment is too late, or when a moment is perfectly aligned. You sense the difference between a forced opportunity and an ordained one. You recognize when persistence is necessary and when release is required. Timing becomes a spiritual conversation rather than a mental struggle. As alertness grows, your relationship with God becomes more interactive. You recognize His movements not just in prayer but in thought, emotion, environment, and instinct. You follow Him naturally instead of anxiously. You trust Him instinctively instead of cautiously. You sense His presence not only in extraordinary moments but in the quiet rhythm of your day. Now that your alertness is active, you are ready for the blessing that surrounds, strengthens, and seals every step God will lead you through today. Blessing of surrounding presence. May God's covering stand before you, behind you, around you, and within you today. This blessing is not a gentle wish or a poetic expression. It is a declaration of spiritual truth, spoken into the atmosphere of your life. It surrounds you with a reality stronger than fear, deeper than uncertainty, and more stable than any pressure you may encounter. You are not stepping into this day alone. You are stepping into a day wrapped in the presence of a God who sees more, knows more, and prepares more than you ever could. May the presence of God stand before you. Let His wisdom clear the path ahead and expose anything that does not belong to your purpose. Let His light reveal hidden dangers long before you approach them. Let His authority remove obstacles that would have weakened your confidence. Let His guidance shape every opportunity that rises before you. When the future feels unpredictable, may the presence of God make it navigable. When decisions appear overwhelming, may His clarity steady your steps. When uncertainty tries to intimidate you, may His certainty take the lead. May the presence of God stand behind you. Let Him silence the memories that attempt to interfere with your direction. Let Him guard you from old patterns that seek to return. Let Him dismantle every fear planted in your past. Let Him remove the emotional weight of disappointments that once shaped your expectations. May the presence behind you give strength to your posture so you walk with confidence rather than caution. Nothing from your past has the authority to define your path when God is standing behind you. May the presence of God stand around you. Let Him shield your spirit from the impact of negativity, confusion, and emotional pressure. Let Him protect your heart from words that were never meant to shape your identity. Let Him guard your mind from thoughts that attempt to derail your peace. Let His surrounding presence act as a barrier that filters what comes near you. May discouragement lose access. May doubt lose its influence. May fear lose its voice. You are surrounded by a presence that allows nothing destructive to pass through. May the presence of God stand within you. Let His truth settle in the deepest place of your reasoning. Let His peace quiet the storms inside your mind. Let His discernment guide your emotions. Let His wisdom rise whenever confusion tries to cloud your decisions. The presence within you is your anchor. It keeps you stable when pressure increases. It keeps you clear when chaos attempts to enter. It keeps you confident when the world feels unstable. God within you is the assurance that you will not be shaken. May this surrounding presence influence every conversation you enter. Let your words carry strength and peace. Let your interactions be marked by wisdom and clarity. Let God's presence filter the intentions of those who approach you, revealing what aligns with purpose and what must be avoided. May every connection today be formed under God's supervision. May God's presence shape your decisions. Let the right choices become unmistakably clear. Let the wrong paths lose their appeal. Let your spirit sense direction even before your mind understands it. Let discernment become natural to you. Let wisdom guide your pace. Let truth determine your responses. God's presence within you transforms every decision from a burden into a guided step. May God's presence protect your time. Let your day be filled not with scattered effort, but with purposeful flow. Let distractions lose their hold on your attention. Let procrastination lose its influence. Let unnecessary obligations fall away. May you experience a day where your energy is spent in alignment with what matters, not consumed by what drains your spirit. May God's presence strengthen your inner world. When you feel pressure, may His peace rise higher. When you feel uncertainty, may His assurance anchor you. When you feel fatigue, may His presence renew you. When you feel overwhelmed, may His strength stabilize you. When fear attempts to rise, may His authority silence it. His presence is not emotional comfort. It is spiritual reinforcement. May God's presence direct your timing. Let Him place you in moments designed for growth. Let Him keep you away from environments that would weaken your clarity. Let Him open doors at the exact moment they are meant to open. Let Him close doors without explanation when protection is necessary. May every part of your day unfold according to divine timing rather than human urgency. May this surrounding presence stay with you from the first thought in the morning to the last thought at night. Let it carry you through pressure, guide you through uncertainty, and hold you steady through every transition. Nothing can overpower a person surrounded by God. Nothing can destabilize someone anchored within His presence. You are covered. You are guided. You are surrounded. Now that this blessing has been spoken over your steps, you are ready for the final movement of this journey. The closing that seals everything and draws your heart back for tomorrow's encounter. Magnetic return sentence. If your spirit felt God covering you here, let this moment remain with you as more than a temporary emotion. Let it become the atmosphere you carry into the rest of your day. You have walked through truth, reflection, and revelation. You have explored the hidden realm of God's protection, the covering that moves with you, the guidance system within you, the strategy behind divine delays, the depth of surrender, the clarity of spiritual alertness, and the power of a surrounding presence. These are not ideas meant to inspire you for a few minutes. They are foundations meant to shape how you walk, how you think, and how you interpret the moments ahead. You are stepping into a day that no longer feels uncertain because you have seen the structure behind it. You understand that God is not watching passively from a distance. He is actively guiding your steps, influencing your timing, guarding your decisions, and steadying your emotions. You have witnessed how He protects you in ways that bypass human logic. You have felt how peace replaces panic when your awareness shifts from self-preservation to surrender. You have recognized the signals of His guidance rising within your spirit. You have received a blessing that surrounds your entire being. None of this belongs to a single moment. It belongs to your path. Carry this awareness into every conversation. Let it shape the tone of your decisions. Let it influence the way you respond to challenges. Let it redirect your attention when your mind begins to drift into fear. Let it remind you that your steps are not unprotected, unplanned, or unsupported. You move through life under a covering that is active, intelligent, and deeply intentional. The God who shielded you in this moment is the same God who will shield you in the next. His presence does not fade when the video ends. His guidance does not diminish when the moment closes. His covering does not weaken when your mind becomes distracted. He remains. As you move through this day, there will be moments that challenge your clarity. There will be decisions that stretch your confidence. There will be environments that test your peace. In each of those moments, return to the awareness awakened here. Remember the guidance that comes from within. Remember the protection that surrounds you. Remember the timing that prepares your steps. Remember the covering that moves ahead of you. What you receive today is not a temporary comfort. It is a spiritual framework built to carry you through pressure, uncertainty, and change. Let the truth of this encounter outlast the moment of listening. Let it settle into your reasoning. Let it anchor your emotions. Let it steady your intentions. Let it shape your perception of the day. You are not walking into the unknown. You are walking into a reality prepared by the God who covers your life and guides every step you take. Before you step away from this space, allow one final truth to sink deeply into your heart. When God covers you, you cannot be overtaken. When God guides you, you cannot be misled. When God surrounds you, you cannot be shaken. Nothing that rises against you today has more authority than the presence that goes before you. Nothing that attempts to confuse you has more weight than the wisdom placed within you. Nothing that tries to weaken you can break the covering that protects you. If your spirit felt God covering you here, return tomorrow. Let this space become a daily meeting place between your heart and God's guidance. Let these moments shape a new rhythm in your soul. Let each day build upon the last. You are walking into a life led by divine intention, strengthened by divine presence, and secured by divine covering. Tomorrow carries new steps. Let God lead them. Return and walk under His protection again. Sealed walk under God's covering. Finally, let this be the moment where everything you heard stops being only a message and becomes the way you choose to walk. What happened here was not just spiritual information. It was a realignment of how you see God, how you see your day, and how you see your own steps. You have seen that God does not watch you from a distance. He surrounds you. You have understood that His covering is not symbolic. It is intelligent, active, and moving. You have recognized that His guidance is not occasional. It is constant, speaking through timing, peace, restraint, and clarity. Now the question is simple. How will you walk after this? You can step away from this moment and return to the old rhythm where your mind carries the weight alone, where your emotions drive your reactions, and where your fears anticipate danger that God has already blocked. Or you can decide that from this point forward, every step you take will be taken under conscious awareness of His covering. This choice is not dramatic. It is practical. It means you will pause before you panic. It means you will listen before you rush. It means you will examine your inner signals before you ignore them. It means you will treat peace as direction, not as a passing feeling. You are not the same person who pressed play at the beginning of this message. Your reasoning has been stretched. Your spirit has been awakened. Your perception has been trained to look beneath the surface of events. Now you know that a delay may be protection, that uneasiness may be warning, that peace may be confirmation, and that stillness may be instruction. You are equipped with a new internal framework to interpret God's movements. This is what makes your walk from here different. You no longer move blindly. You move aware. As you step into the rest of this day, imagine each moment as a continuation of what began here. When you enter a room, remember that God's presence arrived before you. When you face a choice, remember that God's wisdom surrounds the decision. When fear tries to rise, remember that God already stands between you and what you fear. When you feel alone, remember that divine covering does not depend on how you feel. It depends on who He is. Your emotions may fluctuate, but His presence remains constant. Let your internal dialogue change. Instead of asking yourself what could go wrong, begin asking where God is leading. Instead of saying that you do not know what will happen, begin saying that God has already seen what will happen. Instead of repeating that you feel unprotected, remind yourself that you are surrounded. Your words shape your awareness. Your awareness shapes your posture. Your posture shapes your steps. When your language aligns with truth, your walk aligns with God. This sealed walk does not promise that every circumstance will feel easy. It does promise that you will not face any circumstance without covering. It does not promise that you will understand every timing. It does promise that every timing will be purposeful. It does not promise that you will never feel pressure. It does promise that pressure will never be greater than the presence standing around you. God has committed himself to your path in ways that your mind will only fully understand when you look back and see how many things never reached you, because his covering stood in the way. Let this awareness humble you, not in a way that makes you feel small, but in a way that makes you feel safe. You are held by something far greater than your planning. You are guided by someone far wiser than your reasoning. You are protected by a presence far stronger than anything that could oppose you. Humility here is not weakness. It is rest. It is the deep exhale that comes from knowing you do not have to be your own shield. As this chapter closes, make a quiet decision inside yourself. Decide that today you will walk as someone who is covered. Decide that you will pay attention to the signals of God's guidance. Decide that you will trust his delays, respect his warnings, and follow his peace. Decide that when fear speaks, you will measure it against the truth you received here. These decisions do not change who God is. They change how fully you experience what he is already doing. If your spirit sensed God covering you in these moments, do not let this be a single encounter. Return again. Let tomorrow begin under the same awareness. Let each day add a new layer of trust, a new depth of sensitivity, and a new level of confidence in his guidance. Your life is not a sequence of accidents. It is a journey under covering. Walk now, knowing that every step you take today is already inside the reach of God's protection and under the direction of his hand.